One thing that was good, he never changed his feelings about people or about anything, really, you know. I'm sure he was very happy with his success.
For years, fans wondered why Elvis let Priscilla go. Was it fame? Was it betrayal? Vernon Presley finally breaks the silence, revealing what really destroyed their love. His words uncover secrets that Elvis never shared. It's not what the world expected, and it changes everything you thought you knew. What was the reason? Join us as we reveal the truth. A love story written in the spotlight. Elvis Presley became famous very quickly. When he joined the Army in 1958, he was already a huge star. Fans all over the world loved him and filled concert venues just to see him. As his fame grew, he also had personal experiences that were significant. While serving in the Army in Germany, Elvis met someone who had a big impact on his life. The person in question was Priscilla Beaulieu, who was only 14 years old at the time. She had long dark hair, soft features, and an intriguing charm that caught Elvis's eye. Elvis, who was 24 years old, a whole 10 years older, had already experienced a life filled with fame, music, and constant public scrutiny. The age gap between them was noticed by others, but Elvis felt a deeper connection with Priscilla. She was youthful, sweet, and different from the women he usually encountered. There was a quality about her that stuck with him. Priscilla was amazed by what was happening, as she never thought she would be involved with someone like Elvis Presley, who was not only a singer but also a legendary figure. She had always looked up to him from a distance like many other girls, but now she felt like she was living in a fairy tale. Elvis was kind and caring towards her, and soon they formed a strong emotional bond. Their relationship blossomed despite the challenges of distance, age difference, and their contrasting backgrounds. Elvis and Priscilla had been in a long-distance relationship for years before he finally asked her to come live with him in the United States. In 1963, she left her family behind and moved into Graceland, Elvis's famous mansion in Memphis. This was a huge adjustment for her, as she was still young and now living in one of the most well-known homes in America, filled with the luxury and intrigue of Elvis's lifestyle. Living in Graceland was a mix of lovely moments and feeling alone. They had luxury, love, and special times together, but also felt disconnected from the outside world. Elvis's fame meant they had to live in seclusion to avoid unwanted attention. Their life was filled with riches and thrills, but also with feelings of being isolated. Priscilla gave up everything for Elvis, and now her world revolved around him entirely. Elvis and Priscilla married in 1967 after being in a relationship for a while. The wedding was a small, private affair with their close family and friends in attendance. Although it was not the big royal event fans anticipated, it was still a happy and romantic occasion. They appeared to be the ideal couple at that time, with Elvis as the king of rock and roll and Priscilla as his elegant bride. Things felt special for a while. They took nice trips, attended fancy events, and strengthened their relationship at Graceland. However, the fame-related stress persisted. Being the spouse of a globally renowned figure brought difficult obstacles. Their every action was scrutinized by the public, and they couldn't completely unwind even in private. Over time, the problems in their marriage became more evident. Elvis was very busy with his career, always traveling, making music, and interacting with people who had expectations from him. In contrast, Priscilla spent a lot of time at home, feeling lonely and wondering about their relationship. As Elvis became more famous, it became increasingly challenging for them to maintain a strong bond. Elvis had a hard time being faithful to Priscilla and was often pursued by female fans due to his charm, talent, and good looks. Priscilla hoped that their bond would be strong enough to withstand his history with other women. However, it was difficult. Elvis cheating on Priscilla caused a lot of problems in their relationship. Even though he said he loved her, his behavior made her feel insecure and upset. She tried to save the marriage, but she couldn't ignore how they were growing apart. The love they once had started to disappear because of the lack of trust, feelings of being alone, and constant heartache. Despite appearing as a glamorous couple to the public, their relationship inside Graceland was not as perfect. They had difficulty reconnecting and maintaining the closeness they once had. Elvis's busy schedule and fame kept him occupied. leaving Priscilla to try and create a sense of normalcy in their unconventional world. Over time, the couple's emotional disconnect grew too large. They had overcome challenges in the past with their unusual love story, but now they were slowly growing apart. Their once passionate and hopeful relationship started falling apart in public view. Despite still caring for each other, they could no longer share the same vision for their future. Elvis and Priscilla eventually broke up, taking with them memories of their time together. Let's look into the biggest concern of Elvis's father, a father's heartbreak. Vernon Presley had a close relationship with his son Elvis from their early days in Tupelo, Mississippi, to Elvis's fame in Las Vegas. He wasn't just Elvis's dad, but one of the few who truly knew the man behind the legend. Vernon witnessed Elvis's rise to fame from humble beginnings to becoming one of the most famous men in the world. However, along with fame came private struggles. Before Elvis's untimely death, Vernon openly talked about his biggest concern: Elvis's failed marriage to Priscilla. Elvis and Priscilla appeared to be a perfect couple to the public. Their love story seemed like a fairy tale, with Priscilla's beauty and Elvis being the king of rock and roll. However, Elvis's father Vernon saw a different side to their relationship. He saw his son struggling and believed that the reasons for Elvis and Priscilla's divorce were more complicated than people thought. Many believed that the reason for their breakup was cheating. There were rumors circulating about Priscilla being unfaithful and Elvis having wandering eyes. However, Vernon thought there was more to the story. He believed the real issue was within Elvis himself.
Elvis got to liking the Colonel, and the Colonel got to liking him, so that's where it started. Colonel Parker is an honest man.
Despite being in love with Priscilla, Elvis struggled with commitment, not just with her, but with anything in his life. He always desired more excitement, more thrills, more recognition. Elvis was never content with staying in one place or settling down. Vernon felt that Elvis had a restless spirit that couldn't handle a calm and stable life. Being a husband and father mandated Elvis to live a life of routine and calmness, which he struggled to tolerate for extended periods of time. The excitement of performing in front of a crowd, the bright lights, and the adrenaline rush made him feel energized. However, when he was at home, away from the spotlight, things felt dull and ordinary. Elvis's father, Vernon, thought that Elvis was so used to the chaos of fame that he did not know how to live without it. It seemed like he wanted the attention and spotlight to truly be himself. Vernon noticed that Priscilla struggled with the desire for thrills in her life. She cared for Elvis, but she also wanted a companion who was always there for her. She wanted someone reliable and secure, but Elvis was not able to fulfill that role consistently. Even when he was home, his thoughts were elsewhere, as he pursued something elusive that even he did not fully grasp. His constant pursuit made him emotionally distant. Elvis was greatly affected by his fame. It altered his perspective on the world and his identity. He was constantly being pursued by cameras, fans, and managers, never getting a moment of peace. Eventually, Elvis transformed from a regular man into an iconic figure, but it came at a price. His father, Vernon, noticed how isolated Elvis had become. Despite being surrounded by people, he often seemed lonely and misunderstood. Vernon was aware that his son was really feeling lonely. That's when Elvis started relying heavily on prescription doses. Initially, he used them to deal with the stress and late nights. However, as time went on, the doses became a bigger part of his life. They helped him escape the pain and silence the thoughts in his head, but they also distanced him from reality. Vernon felt deeply saddened as he observed the doses taking control. Elvis became less attentive and began to forget things, drifting away from others and losing sight of what was important. The impact of the doses was not limited to his music, but also affected his relationships, particularly with Priscilla. Vernon witnessed how the doses caused Elvis to become more withdrawn and insensitive. At times, he was unaware of the pain he was causing to those he loved the most. Vernon was most saddened by the fact that Elvis really loved Priscilla. He was certain of that. However, love alone was not sufficient. Elvis had a complicated emotional state. He mandated continuous validation and attention. Even when he received it, it never seemed to be adequate. Priscilla made efforts to fulfill all his needs, but no one could completely satisfy the void within him. Vernon comprehended this very clearly. He noticed the signs of emotional struggle in Elvis long before anyone else did. Vernon always knew that the marriage would be challenging because it was surrounded by paparazzi and die-hard fans. The relationship was influenced by fame, scrutiny, and responsibilities that young couples shouldn't have to face. Elvis and Priscilla were very young when their marriage began, and they were still figuring out their identities. Despite their young age, they were expected to have a flawless relationship. Over time, Vernon realized that their love was not strong enough to keep them together. It wasn't that they did not love each other, but their differences drove them apart. Elvis craved the excitement of performing on stage, while Priscilla preferred a peaceful and stable life. As a result, they gradually grew apart. Their separation was not fueled by anger or disloyalty, but by a sense of melancholy that they couldn't repair. Vernon came to terms with the fact that their divorce was necessary, although it was difficult and unavoidable. The circumstances surrounding Elvis's life were too powerful. The world turned him into a huge figure, but it also prevented him from living a normal life as a husband and father. Could this be the reason behind their divorce? Let's find out. When love grew quiet. Priscilla Presley stood by Elvis for many years as he experienced the ups and downs of fame, music, and a very public life. Despite the happy images seen by the public, there was a hidden and heartbreaking story unfolding behind the scenes, known only to those closest to them. Even though Priscilla never talked openly about her struggles during that time, she knew about Elvis's multiple affairs. These were not just rumors, but painful realities that she silently bore. She was in love with him and married him hoping for a happy life. They had a daughter named Lisa Marie Presley in 1968. Being a mother brought Priscilla a different kind of joy. She focused on her family and tried to be a supportive partner for Elvis. She wanted to keep their family together. However, love cannot survive without attention and care, no matter how strong the loyalty. While Elvis was on extensive tours or busy filming movies, Priscilla was left at home feeling lonely and bored. Despite living in a luxurious house filled with expensive things, she often felt isolated. There were times when she wouldn't see Elvis for long periods, and even when he was home, he seems emotionally distant. His life centered around music, fame, and his adoring fans, while Priscilla felt like an outsider looking in. She often questioned her role in his world. Over time, she became more and more lonely. The emotional distance between her and Elvis kept increasing, and she started to feel like she was not being seen in their life together. He was not paying enough attention to her, and her emotional, personal, and spiritual needs were being neglected. She had been there for him for a long time, hoping things would get better, but it became apparent that something was falling apart. During the early 1970s, Priscilla met Mike Stone, a karate instructor who knew Elvis well, at a time when she was feeling very vulnerable. They became friends, and eventually their relationship turned romantic. Although their affair was short, it had a lasting impact on Priscilla and Elvis's relationship. Priscilla did not make her decision lightly. She had been trying to be strong for a long time. Her affair was not just about love. It was about wanting to feel acknowledged, understood, and appreciated again. It was her way of getting back something she had lost in her marriage, a sense of self. But when Elvis discovered the affair, the consequences were immediate and heartbreaking. He was surprised at first. Instead of anger, he felt disbelief. He always thought women would always be interested in him, so he never thought Priscilla would leave. Her betrayal hurt more than he thought. She wasn't just someone who liked him, she was his wife and the mother of his child. Elvis felt like his whole world had fallen apart. In the days after that, he felt a mix of pain and confusion. He was hurt in a way that he couldn't understand. The man who had enchanted many people with his songs was now dealing with heartache. He started to distance himself from Priscilla and everything else. Even though they still lived together, there was a clear emotional and physical gap between them, a love that changed but never ended. In 1973, Elvis Presley and Priscilla had reached a point in their marriage where things couldn't be fixed. Their once fairy tale-like love story had fallen apart, and they cared for each other but couldn't make it work. They ended up separating and getting a divorce, which was emotional but not unexpected for those who knew them well. Over time, small cracks became bigger. The space between them, both in feelings and physically, had only gotten wider as time passed. Elvis's fame brought a glamorous lifestyle, long periods of being apart, and the pressures that came with it had a negative impact. Throughout it all, their love for their daughter, Lisa Marie Presley, was the one thing that stayed strong. The divorce settlement was important for many reasons. It included a lot of money and valuable possessions, but for Elvis and Priscilla, the most important thing was their daughter, Lisa Marie. They both wanted to be a part of her life and stayed connected even after the divorce ended by keeping their promise to each other. Even though Elvis faced his challenges, he did not neglect his responsibility as a dad to Lisa Marie. He stayed active in her life and tried to offer guidance in his way. At the same time, Priscilla worked hard to give Lisa Marie a regular upbringing despite being constantly in the spotlight. She prioritized being a good mother and tried to protect her daughter from the tumultuous events around them. After Elvis and Priscilla divorced, people were quick to judge. The media talked about them and made assumptions, but despite all the gossip, something wonderful was happening. Even though they were no longer married, Elvis and Priscilla still remained close. Their divorce did not make them enemies. Instead, it brought a sense of peace to their relationship. Their emotional connection had changed, but it was still present. They still had feelings for each other. Though their relationship no longer had romantic elements, there was still a fondness between them. They showed each other kindness and respect. Both of them would smile when they saw each other. They would speak softly to each other, not because they had to, but because they understood each other. During an Elvis concert, one emotional moment was when he sang, "I Will Always Love You," a song written by Dolly Parton. The performance felt very personal, with Elvis's voice expressing more than words could. It seemed like he was singing to Priscilla, saying his love remained even after their marriage ended. Although Elvis and Priscilla were no longer together, they still collaborated as a team in raising their daughter, Lisa Marie. They were both committed to providing her with a good life and stayed in frequent communication, discussing her needs and making decisions together. While their co-parenting wasn't flawless, it was based on a true concern for their daughter's well-being. They made sure that their personal history did not affect their daughter's future. They would frequently meet in private to discuss Lisa Marie, and sometimes just to chat. At times, they would reminisce and share a laugh over past memories when life was easier. These meetings were peaceful and secluded, away from the attention of cameras and news stories. It was their special time together. Their friendship had changed from their youthful romance, but was still genuine. It was sincere and had evolved into a more stable and peaceful connection. The intense love they once felt had matured into something deeper and more lasting. Their relationship now focused on comfort, admiration, and their shared past. They still showed they cared, even when no one else was around. As time passed, many realized that Elvis and Priscilla's relationship was more than just a failed marriage. Their story showed that love doesn't always go away completely, but may transform over time. Despite their differences and challenges, there was a strong connection between them that remained. While Elvis was busy with his career and facing personal struggles, Priscilla was dedicated to raising their daughter Lisa Marie and establishing her life. Despite this, they always supported each other in their unique ways. Whether through phone calls, gestures of kindness, or words of encouragement, remaining connected to one another, they refused to let bitterness take over. They did not abandon each other. Instead, they decided to move forward together, not as a married couple, but as two individuals who had a special bond and would always hold on to that. Their marriage was emotional and challenging, but after their divorce, their relationship became calm and consistent. It demonstrated that despite unexpected outcomes, peace can be found. Elvis and Priscilla may have ended their romantic connection, but their bond remained strong. Their story is not about failing, but about evolving. It is about two people who once loved each other but drifted apart while still holding on to their care for one another. The story illustrates that love can change and endure in unexpected ways. Elvis and Priscilla, after the divorce. After Elvis Presley and Priscilla got divorced, Elvis was filled with a mix of emotions. He always had a special place in his heart for Priscilla because of the love, laughter, and joy they shared in raising their daughter Lisa Marie. Even though they were no longer together, their emotional connection remained strong. However, Elvis had difficulty expressing his feelings and was not good at talking about his pain or heartache. The end of their marriage left him with a deep sadness that he struggled to conceal. Elvis continued to impress the crowds with his performance on stage. His singing was strong and his dancing skills were just as impressive as before. However, those who paid attention could notice a change in him. There was a hint of sadness in his eyes and a sense of loneliness in his smile. It was evident that he was going through some emotional pain. Despite the cheers from fans and the bright lights shining on him, he still felt empty inside. He longed for the connection he once had with Priscilla, someone who truly understood him beyond his fame and success. After Priscilla and Elvis divorced, she also felt weighed down by the situation. However, she decided to focus on their daughter, Lisa Marie, instead of dwelling on her emotions. Priscilla made her daughter the most important thing in her life and put all her effort into being a great mother. She stayed out of the public eye and avoided attention. Even though she still cared for Elvis, she thought that looking after their daughter and providing a stable home was the most important thing. Over time, Priscilla started to find her inner strength again. She gained more self-assurance and peace of mind. No longer just known as Elvis's ex-wife, she defined herself as an independent individual. Gradually, she became a crucial figure in preserving Elvis's memory after his death. Although she continued to love and care for him, she recognized the importance of staying strong for herself and their daughter, Lisa Marie. Even after they broke up, Elvis and Priscilla stayed involved in each other's lives. They kept communication open, particularly when it came to their child. Working together as co-parents helped them stay connected, and over time their discussions shifted from dwelling on past hurt to focusing on what lies ahead. They formed a different type of bond based on respect, empathy, and shared experiences. It wasn't smooth sailing all the time, but there was still a lingering affection between them that even legal separation couldn't erase. Elvis's life became more complex as time went on. Even though his career seemed successful to the public, privately he was struggling. His health started to deteriorate and his dependence on prescription doses became worse. At times, his actions were erratic and those around him were concerned. Despite everything, Priscilla never gave up on him. She was unable to help him with his problems, but she made sure to always be by his side. She silently observed his life and made an effort to be there for him when he wanted support. It was challenging for her to balance her love for him with the need to protect herself and Lisa Marie from his chaotic lifestyle. However, her care for him never wavered. During a challenging time in Elvis's life, Priscilla took on responsibilities that many people were unaware of. Despite no longer being married, Elvis had a deep trust in her. She was not just the mother of his child, but also a reliable and constant presence in his life. Priscilla provided him with guidance, assisted with his finances, and backed him up on certain career choices. Their bond evolved into a unique but genuine partnership. Always on her mind. Elvis Presley passed away on August 16, 1977, when he was only 42 years old. His sudden death shocked people around the world. Fans everywhere were devastated. Many people gathered to mourn and pay tribute to him. The voice that had moved so many was now silent, marking the end of a significant era in music history. However, for those who were closest to Elvis, his loss was much more profound. It was a personal and painful experience that they could never forget. Priscilla Presley was a standout among all of Elvis's loved ones. She wasn't just his former wife, but also the mother of their only child, Lisa Marie Presley. Even though their marriage had ended years ago, their connection remained strong. After Elvis passed away, Priscilla took on the weighty and fragile task of preserving his legacy.
And you chose these tracks in particular for
Producer
this treatment?
Don Reedman and myself chose the tracks, and it's so diverse, and just these are songs that he loved.
She accepted this responsibility wholeheartedly, without any hesitation. Graceland, the home of Elvis Presley, was always important. When he passed away, there was a risk of it becoming just another empty house with forgotten memories. However, Priscilla Presley did not allow that to happen. She took charge with determination and elegance. Priscilla dedicated herself to keeping Graceland vibrant, not just as a building, but as a living memory of Elvis. It was a challenging task to maintain the expensive estate, and Priscilla had to make difficult choices. However, she was determined and worked diligently to ensure that Graceland remained a place where Elvis fans could feel connected to him. She focused on preserving the magic rather than just the physical items. As a result of her efforts, Graceland became one of the most popular tourist destinations in the country, second only to the White House. Elvis's spirit was kept alive throughout the entire estate. Priscilla continued her work beyond Graceland because she believed that Elvis Presley's real gift to the world was his music. She wanted to ensure that his music would live on for future generations, so she managed the release of albums and helped with projects that honored his life. Whether it was through documentaries, merchandise, or live performances featuring his songs, Priscilla was deeply involved in keeping Elvis's spirit alive. She made sure that everything reflected the essence of Elvis, the man she had loved immensely. Even as Priscilla moved on with her life, she always remembered the past. She made sure to preserve his reputation and keep his story safe, doing so with grace and respect. She knew that Elvis was more than just a singer. He was a significant cultural figure, a loving father, and a complex individual with his hopes and challenges. She made it her mission for people to remember the true Elvis, beyond the glamour and celebrity. Elvis and Priscilla's relationship was always complicated. They first met when she was young, and their love blossomed rapidly amidst both excitement and stress. Fame had a significant impact on their marriage. While there were happy times with laughter and love, they also faced difficulties such as Elvis's career demands, his personal struggles, and the constant scrutiny that came with being in the spotlight. In 1973, their marriage ended, but they remained connected through their daughter. After their divorce, they found a new way to maintain a relationship through co-parenting. They focused on raising their daughter in a loving home, even though they were no longer married. Their bond through their daughter kept them close even after the end of their romantic relationship. The peaceful friendship that developed after they parted ways was characterized by kindness. They harbored no hard feelings towards each other. Instead, they had a deep understanding. As time passed, they made peace with each other. They reflected on their past relationship not with resentment or sorrow, but with gratitude for the good times they had shared. While they had drifted apart, they had also grown closer in certain ways. This meant something to them. Even after Elvis passed away, Priscilla continued to cherish the love they had. She spoke fondly of him, remembering his sense of humor, caring nature, and charismatic personality. Priscilla defended him from criticism and refused to let him be portrayed as a tragic figure. Instead, she emphasized his positivity, talent, and strong passion for music and his loved ones. Her dedication was acknowledged by others. Fans were grateful for how she continued to share his story. She provided a space for people to honor, commemorate, and mourn him. All of this while also caring for Lisa Marie with kindness and understanding. Elvis and Priscilla had a genuine love story that may not have been flawless, but was always genuine. What do you think about Archie's DNA? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more celebrity gist. Before you go, watch the other videos on your screen.